All right, here we go. We're back at the homestead, and it is freezing. It wasn't too bad when we left, and now we're back, and it's like 19 for a high or something, and we got a couple of inches of snow, and it already melted off. And so the weather's changing. Here comes winter. Hope you guys are prepared for whatever comes your way. But today what we're going to do is kind of follow up with the last video. I talked about going off-grid. Maybe you could get an RV to start your off-grid life. And I'm just going to kind of go through the story of after we decided maybe no to the RV, and I did a little more investigating, and I thought, man, I could build a log cabin. I said, those guys, those pioneers, they were coming out to the west and they were building log cabins, and they didn't even know how to read and write. I said, I think I'm already ahead of them. I know how to read and write, and if I do a little homework, I think I can do it. And so that's what I did, actually. I sourced the logs, okay? Had them milled at a sawmill. I didn't have a sawmill at the time. And then I notched out the logs, okay? And then I set them up like, you know, how the house looks to kind of, as I was going, I would set them up, and there they are. They're all ready to go, and all I had to do was find my forever home for my logs. Now, we did a lot of investigating and stuff. You know, there's things that you want to find out about your property. I have a book called The First 7 Steps. If you want to go off-grid, you might want to check that out. It's at offgridwithdouandstacy.com. It's a small little read. It's not a big, intense book, but it just gives you some nudges and some ideas on things that you can think about if you want to live off-grid, right? If you want to be left alone. And typically the term off-grid means you're living without any public utilities, no electric, no sewer, no water. We don't have trash service. We have no gas bill, electric bill. You know, gas, I mean like natural gas for our heat and stuff. You know, none of those trappings. Of course, we do pay taxes on our property, but they went from almost $6,000 a year down to $400 a year. So it's a big difference when you live on agriculture land versus when you live in the city and they want to just drain your pockets so they can build big fancy buildings with lots of air conditioning so all the government employees can be very comfortable all day. And notice that the buildings keep getting bigger and bigger. The taxes go up, more money into the coffers. It's never going to stop unless we put a foot down on it. So that's what I was on my mind, see? And so the taxes are a lot cheaper. Everything about living in the country is a lot cheaper. Everything about it. And then if you can find a state, you know, a lot of states like California has a high cost of living because they have terrible policies. And then there's other states like, you know, Kentucky or West Virginia that have a really low cost of living because they have good policies, right? So that's another thing to think about is the cost of living where you are. Molly, you leave Mr. Turkey alone. Come here. All right, so that's, just keep that in mind while we're talking about it here. Now, I'd never built anything before, so taking on a project like this was kind of heavy duty, right? And I'd never put in foundation before, never worked with any concrete before. I wasn't going to do the cinder blocks for the foundation because that's not really long-term in my mind. I wanted to go with a concrete foundation. So I had to kind of come up here after we bought our land. Maybe I'll do a video on how we bought our land, but I came up here after we bought our land. I started talking to some local folks and kind of asking who did the concrete work, talked to a couple fellows, and then we started the dig and they put in the concrete. So this video here is just going to be a little bit about how I built this house with no experience, and it cost me about $15,000. Ha! So this is probably one of the cheapest ways I found to get off grid, and it's beautiful, it's functional, and it will last multi-generations. All that is oak, white oak. It will last. My grandkids could live there if they take good care of it. So it's a long time. We have some homes in Missouri here, log homes. They've been here for 200 plus years, and we've did some videos about some of them too. So you might want to go through our archives there and find the old 1800s homesteads that we toured and showed you guys. So that's another reason why I went with the log home, because it lasts a long time. Those guys dug out the foundation. I remember standing there when they were digging out the foundation, and I was thinking to myself, are we really, look at that, that's how big of a space our house is. Like, they had it cut out in the ground and we're all standing there and we're looking at it, and I was thinking, coming from like 2,600 square foot big house, I was thinking, that's our house? We're living in that little square right there? So those guys got the foundation walls put up pretty good. backfilled them and everything. We put the drainage pipes in, and they were actually educating me along the way, and they were telling me about the gravel and the plastic. On the interior of the crawl space, you'll want to put down some 6 mil plastic to keep the moisture from coming up out of the ground and coming underneath the floor. And then I put some gravel in there too to kind of help me with when I got in there walking around, and so it's not dirt and mud or anything like that. So those guys actually helped me out with that too, and I'm passing that information on to you. And that keeps that moisture from buckling your floors and stuff. That was a good tip. Now, I didn't have a skid steer or nothing when I got out here, but I bought a big tractor. It was a 190 Allison Chalmers it was. And it was a big tractor because I'd, never been on a farm before, and I didn't know how much 11 acres, how much of a tractor you're gonna need for 11 acres. So I got that tractor, but it was too big for the property, but it was just right to build this house. And I was able to use the bucket on it to lift up each log and to place them on the foundation, and then to start my run up. Now, and I know I'm showing you pictures of me building this cabin and there's nobody in the pictures. That's because when I was building this stuff, I was pretty much by myself. I had a few friends come here and there to kind of help out, but I was here building this thing by myself, and like I said, with a few friends popping in and out. And you got to remember too, cell phones were just coming out, man. We have such short-term memories. It's like these cell phones have been here forever. Cell phones were just coming out, taking pictures and being all into this documentation stuff. I wasn't really into it. It was a new thing. And so I was just focused on building this house. I built this house in 90 days, y'all. June, July, August, I had to get it done before winter was coming. And so it was really on my mind. Stacy was staying down in the city. I was sleeping in a tent. It was a big mess. But I started putting my boards up, my logs, one by one, and each one, it just felt so good, like it was so much accomplishment. So I'm just working up the rows, row, 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 row. Everything's going really good. And then I got up to here. Now this was the hard part for me because the logs were just stacking. It's pretty simple stuff. Every once in a while, I would drill a long drill hole through this log here, and then I would drop a rebar in between these two pieces, like right here. Okay, right here and right here, I would drill a hole between the two logs here, and I would drop a piece of rebar in there. And what that would do, it would keep these logs from bowing out and in and out. Okay, kind of keep them straight. That's the only way I could come up with keeping them like that. Now, Mom's house, you guys saw us drilling those screws way down in there. I mean, that was a whole systematic system, and this was just I was just kind of going as I go. As a matter of fact, I'll show you a spot where I messed up on the house. You can see right there, I was drilling in right from this top one and then connecting it to this one, and I came out of the log just a little bit right there. That's my little memory. There's a couple of them on here. So I was up here. This was the hardest part, right? Because I had to build this whole ridge beam, and the rafters were built on site. I didn't order them in or anything, and I was all by myself, right? And it was the hottest day of the year. When the first year we got up here, we had a major drought, and it was super hot. And I was up on this thing. I was trying to hold this ridge beam up. Can you imagine? I was trying to hold this ridge beam up, and then I didn't have any of these sticks, right? Like each one of these has a little rafter stick every 12 feet or no, every 16 inches. There's another rafter. So I had to get the ridge beam up. I had like 3 or 4 of these rafters hanging off of them. And I had to put a 2x4 underneath the ridge beam, hold it up, balance it from falling off the whole roof, right? Get my nail gun, shoot them in. I wish I could have got this on camera for you guys. And that's why you see all the strapping and everything everywhere, because I was taking the ratchet straps and stretching it on there, and then just trying to hold it up. And then eventually I won, and I got the roof finished. Boy, that was the toughest part of the whole thing. Now, in between all the logs there, I took that Pink Panther styrofoam and I cut out strips, and I put them in between the logs as like a thermal break. And then I did my chinking, over that. So in between the logs, in between the chinking, there's some pink insulation to help, keep the breeze off of in between my logs there in the chinking there. And I just used some stuff called log jam for the chinking. You know, I didn't mix any mud and dirt and straw. Oh, I don't know. I just kind of wanted to show you guys through this little video here about, you know, just going for it, I guess is what you could say. If it works out, it's going to be great. If it doesn't work out, it's not going to be great. But you never know. So we just walked in faith, right? We just felt like, you know, God was calling us to come back to the land, and our health was suffering, and city life wasn't working out for us, and it was just all these things that were going on. Maybe you're feeling the same way right now. And we wanted more control over our food and more control over our water. And I'll be honest, guys, we didn't even know what that looked like. That's what we're trying to stress to you guys. Like, we just knew that God wanted us on the land and sowing seed and reaping what we sowed and all that stuff we were learning in the Bible. And if you're not into the Bible, just think about being connected to the land and growing food in abundance. And the stores have you living hand to mouth, right? You have to eat the food, then you go back there and buy the food, and you have to work so you can get the money. It's like this constant, I don't know. But that right there, that's my $15,000 log home. And that includes the windows and everything. I bought the cheap vinyl windows from Window World, I think it was, right? I bought the cheapest doors. I've since replaced the doors twice. I bought the cheapest doors to put on here. We bought the cheapest stove we could find, you know, and then we've since upgraded. You know, that's another thing, you guys. Once you get into your property and your place, you know, you just kind of start saving from there. You get in there, and then you just start saving from there, and then you'll be able to, you know, better it, get it a little better, get your systems in place. I don't know. I'm trying to inspire you guys, right? Because it can be a daunting task on the other side of this camera, you know, looking at all your stuff at home and watching what's going on, and just knowing that you probably might want to do this or need to do this, and you just don't know, like, has anyone ever done it before? I mean, that's the beauty of all this social media stuff, isn't it? That I can come and share my story and Stacy's story with you guys, and maybe it could just spark a little something inside of you where you're just like, man, if he can do it, I can do it. Well, I hope you enjoyed our little story about my log cabin build, and maybe it gives you a little idea, something to think about. The Missouri Log Cabin Company has now formed. I will be building log cabins, kits, and selling them to you guys. And I'm gonna keep them really dirt cheap. They're gonna be 20, 25, something like that. You know what I mean? I get really, it kind of hurts my heart when I see you guys going out there and you buying those shed houses, right? Let's talk about that for a second. Now, if you got, you know, marginal credit or something, you know, there's a time and a place for everything. I'm not going to poo-poo on the shed houses too much, but you guys just be careful out there. I mean, that's a hustle. You know, they're making those things for super cheap. They're selling them to you for double the price, and then they're financing them to you, you know, running them out, you know, 10 years on you, and man, that thing ends up costing you a lot more than you think. That was another reason why this was just such a better setup. Plus, those walls are, you know, 4 inches thick of oak. It's highly insulated, great insulated R values. And if you got a shed house, you know, you're gonna have to finish off the whole inside. They usually use inferior wood instead of a 2x6. They'll use a 2x2. You know, instead of a 2x4, they'll use a 2x2. Then you got to kind of, you know, beef up the interior. Then you have to finish out the whole inside. Insulation, drywall, doors, caulk, you know, tape, mud, screw. You know what I mean? Like on and on and on to finish the inside. So just think about that. I'm not downing on it too much. You got to do what you got to do. But just think of all the possibilities before you pull that trigger. That's what I'm just trying to tell you. Because that ends up kind of being a money hole. It works. And I mean, I've seen people make it work. You know, and you got to do what you got to do, I guess. Right? But just know there's other options out there. There's other options out there. So if you're not subscribed to our channel, make sure you subscribe to our channel so you can keep in touch with us as we build those kits and get them out to you guys. Make sure you hit that thumbs up on the way out. The girls are looking really good. Aren't you, girls? This is some subpar hay. We're gonna take it back. I don't let them eat no subpar stuff. All right, you guys have a great day out there. We'll talk to you guys on the next video. We got some cool stuff coming up for you guys, and we're on our way to go see our son just had his first grandbaby. So we're gonna go spend Thanksgiving with our grandbaby, and we're gonna take you guys along. How about those apples? So make sure you're subscribed, and we'll see you on the next video.